Chrissy B and welcome to my show. Now, being your own boss and choosing your own hours would be a dream come true for many, but starting your own business can also be very stressful. So it's really important to take the right steps to ensure that you get it right. We have lots of advice for you here today because we don't want you having your own business to affect your mental health negatively. Today, I'll be speaking to Maulik Sailor about how he started his own company, and business expert Jonathan Pfahl will be here to give some advice too. We also have 5 tips for success from a top CEO, and later I'll be giving you some advice on managing stress with Coach Chris Browne. But first, let's go to the news with Helena. And here she is, the lovely Helena.
Hi, Chrissy.
Helen Shah, just get your
Helen
surname in
Shah,
it.
that's right.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Racing. This is a show that's close to my heart,
Yeah.
I have to say, because I know this is about startups and dealing with stress, but I think in business in general, it's a balancing act.
Now you have your own business.
I do.
Can you tell us about what you do, and apart from coming here and doing the news?
I do lots of things. I'm in the creative field, so I'm a royal photographer. I have my own royal photography business with Ian Pelham-Turner, and we're taking the exhibition and talks around the world, really. China soon, at the moment on cruise ships. But it's a lot of juggling. I also
cruise ships. That sounds like a doddle.
Ooh, actually, I found not such a doddle. There's lots of little bits that happen, you know. But you just have to keep up with things. But I also have the agency work, which is there's something quite interesting in that to do with contracts. So I supply artists for films and commercials, and it's all very exciting. And I obviously work with you, which I love. So I'm always juggling things, racing.
How do you cope with everything?
Well, I have to say, to begin with, I didn't cope as well as I do now. You do learn, so you can find yourself consumed beyond belief. But the biggest thing, the thing to remember is, yes, you've got to be passionate about your product, whatever it may be. Yes, you eat, drink, sleep, and you're always thinking things, but you can't allow it to consume your life and to take over completely, because it's just a downward spiral. So you have to keep yourself in a sort of a balanced act.
It's quite hard not to, though, isn't it? Not to get yourself into that state, because it's something so important to you, and sometimes your whole life depends on it. If you don't have another income coming in, especially.
It is. But then you've got to be sensible and take advice from people. Talk to loads of people. Network. Talk to people you trust. Don't just be bogged in by yourself in this little bubble, because it can lead to depression and upset. And that's the thing, when you lose your passion and you're stressed beyond belief. Stress is a horrible thing. It's an ugly thing. Take advice from all your family who say, take a break. Enough is enough.
I keep telling you that.
I know you do. And I will. I'm going to get to a certain point after China, and I will definitely take a break and see family and friends.
I mean, I mix work with doing what I like, because I love going to the park. And there are times when I'll just take my laptop and I'll just go and work there the whole day. But it relaxes me at the same time. So though I'm working, actually I get a lot more done there than I do when I work from home, or in the office.
I'm the same.
But then just relaxing, I can get more done. I get a bit of sunshine like I did the other day, and
that's so important. And also, if you're working, it's so important. I mean, you see so many business gurus. I mean, Branson, to name but a few. He always says, you've got to take yourself out, even if it's 15 minutes of white space, as they call it. It could be that you just play ping pong. You could just take a quick walk. You maybe sit out and have a coffee. Have a hug, cuddle someone. Which is
someone you know, right? Don't just go cuddling random strangers.
Maybe someone you know, it does the world of good, because you don't want the insomnia and the lack of sleep and the nervousness and anxiety which goes with it all. Stuff. And you've got to keep strong, you've got to be strong to push yourself forward. One of the, I thought it was quite interesting, was Walt Disney, and his business grew. He had his Walt Disney Studio, which grew at the same time as, I think, Mickey Mouse in the cartoon Steamboat Willie. And he just was swamped, and he was trying to do it all on his own. I mean, it grew amazingly quickly, which is another thing about business, is to try and stagger the steps. You don't want to just suddenly overnight grow.
That's the thing, isn't it? Because most people think, oh, what if it doesn't grow? What if it doesn't grow fast enough? But then there's the other problem.
You want to plan it, you want it to work for you.
Step by step, so you can get used to things.
Yeah, but he had a complete emotional meltdown. Phone calls, he just cried, he couldn't talk, he wasn't talking sense because he just a breakdown completely. He came around, luckily he had his wife Lillian, who was very strong for him, and the way he changed, tried to put positivity, and his wife helped him. The wife travelled with him around the world, and also he used to play polo. Just simple things, and he managed to bring himself round. So that's him. There's a lady called Chris Ruby she's a media consulting company in New York, and I was interested in her story because she was taking on more work, and I really know what that feels like, that she could handle. She was literally, before she knew it, she was racing from meeting to meeting. She was doing speeches, she was travelling here and advising people, and everything was just grew too quickly. She wasn't sleeping, she wasn't eating, she didn't, everything had got out of control. And she took advice and scaled everything back. So she decided that she wasn't going to work on a certain day. She digitally detoxed, yay! Which I think is amazing. I think it's something that I might try and do, or very hard, albeit very hard.
I did watch something about that where they have these people, they'd send them away for about a week and they're not allowed to look at their phones or anything, but they're so refreshed up. I mean, I tried it for an hour and I couldn't do it. I went to this,
hour, I know. Now, shame on you. That I know.
It was a flotation tank, and I was just meant to stay. I was meant to stay in that for an hour, and I think about halfway through, I checked my phone. I couldn't take it. I can't lay there for an hour just doing nothing. I'd rather be walking or something.
Doing something like that.
Doing something.
But it's good to relax an hour. That's not so good. But I do understand. I probably would be the same. But I do want to try it. And I think the important thing, if you've got clients, is you can actually advise them. If you're trying to get hold of me between this time, I'm not going to be contactable. So it's the way you handle your affairs.
This is why it's important to get an outside view sometimes, which is great what Jonathan does with the mentoring, because sometimes you're so consumed and you're so stressed about your business. But when you have someone from outside helping you, looking in on things and giving you advice, maybe spotting things that you haven't spotted, or talking things from experience, it does really take some of the stress off.
Because if you speak to people that have been through it, in a way, business is similar. Okay, you've got different products, but the whole going through the experience
that's right.
It is similar, and advice is absolutely 100%. Another thing as well is knowing your strengths. So if you're good at certain things, write them down, it's always good for you, and you're not good at certain things, don't try and do everything. If you've got friends that you trust or people you can delegate to in some way, let them do certain things. Again, coming back to Branson, he was dyslexic. He knew he wasn't very good at certain things, but he was such a charmer that he managed to charm his way, and his brand grew. It's really important, because otherwise you're not going to do well if you're going to be working on things you're not good at. And that's quite brave to come to terms with things as well that you're not so good at. I think Simon Cowell is quite a good one to talk about as well, which is like reframing things, because he did very well. He got a bit fond of himself. He lost his business because he thought he was doing so well, but he didn't listen to people around him, and lost masses of money. But he learned the hard way. But in a way, he just, again, normally if you're entrepreneurial, you can reframe and start again. And he went into everything with a huge passion, and look where he is today. So he's done incredibly well.
We've got time for one more.
Oh gosh, I should talk about myself. One thing very important, it's such a I love it, it's such a big subject. One thing as well is not to forget about contracts. It could be confidentiality agreement forms, very simple things, but you think your friends are your friends until sometimes they do things like they can walk out in business, and there was a certain person that had that done to him. Including me, in fact, to do with a client I could not believe walked off with a huge chunk of my business. So I learnt the hard way, but it's the very simple things that, people like Jonathan would advise. It's really important. Just a simple contract is in place. 50 cents, for instance. He tried it with a company and walked off with, it was a music, I was about to say hearing aids, no, earphones. I thought he could just walk off with and they sued him, the makers of these earphones. He was too big, and thought, oh well, they're taking too long, I'll just do it myself. But you know, a contract was in place. He was sued for like 20 million.
Oh,
but
wow.
boom, those contracts are very important.
Definitely.
Oh, I have so much more, but anyway, another time.
Another time. I'm sure we'll do something similar on this topic again. Thank you so much, Helen.
Thank you.
See you again soon. Alrighty, so do stay tuned, because after the break, I'll be talking to Maulik Sailor about his business and how he managed to get to where he is today. And we'll also have 5 tips for success from a top CEO.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to today's show, where we are speaking about how to manage the stress of starting or having your own business. So before we go any further, let's take a look at some advice from a top CEO, which you can apply whether you're an employee or if you have your own business.
5 qualities you need to succeed. Talking today to James Michael Lafferty.
What would you say to somebody like a young person or anybody maybe who's having to change a career and they really wanted to have a successful career and climb the ladder? What would you say to them that maybe the 5 most qualities that they really need to have if they were serious about becoming very successful in what they wanted to do?
The first one would be courage. They need to take risks in their career, especially young people. They need to gamble a bit, and they need to go for it. When you have children and you have a spouse and you have house payments, you know, you lose your ability to be flexible. When you're young like Morgan and you just have a house, you're just renting an apartment, and you know, you don't have a car, you don't have a husband, you have kids, you're flexible. Take the risks and swing for things. The second thing that you need is coachability. You have to be willing to absorb information and get better. Now, it's funny, the SEALs call this the warrior mindset, which is, are you prepared to get better, or do you think you're already good enough? And it's amazing the number of people who say, look, I'm good enough. I'm not open to any more changes or input in my life. That's a dangerous place to be. You need to be coachable. The third is EQ, or social intelligence. Can you work with other people? Everything's about teamwork. And you know, the selfish people, the people who only think about themselves, who step on other people, who don't basically have an understanding of how humans think and what motivates people, are always going to struggle. In any company I've been in, the people that struggled to get along with others never were successful, no matter how big that brain was, no matter how many hours they worked, they weren't gonna make it. The fourth would be leadership. You won't find a company in the world today that has enough leaders. Yeah, there's a dearth of leadership in every corporation in the world today. Now, everyone says they're a leader, but I'm talking real leadership. You know, doing the right thing, winning over trust. I mean, you know, General Eisenhower said, the essence of leadership is integrity. And, you know, people that are political, that are manipulative, that think they're leaders, they're not. And all of their people know it. This is about people that really take a stand for something. Why does everyone follow Nelson Mandela? Because he did the right thing, even though it was very difficult. That's the essence, you know, that's the essence of leadership. And the final thing would be perseverance, which you're gonna have ups and downs. I've had great times in my career, I've had bad times. I've had successful launches and I've had failures. You gotta stick with it. The difference between success and failure is nuances. So it's a very fine line. So, you know, it's a one or two things sometimes that makes the difference between it. So, and you know, success all the time is a horrible teacher. You need to fail sometimes. I mean, I always go back and tell people, the best system to learn skiing is from the French. And the French will tell you, if you didn't fall down today, you didn't do it right. You should fall. Because falling means you tried new maneuvers and new degrees of slope and new hills that have made you a better skier. Not, I'm always gonna do the easy runs where I don't fall down and I'm comfortable. You make progress when you're uncomfortable. Comfort is an enemy to anybody because comfort makes us complacent. Comfort makes us just sitting, you know, this is so nice. You got to push yourself, and so that's what's important, is that continual learning and continual improvement and being pushed to do things that you haven't done before.
So you've been having quite a lot of changes in your career, as you're saying, grabbing opportunities, and things have gone in different directions. Would you say that that's still happening now in your career?
Absolutely. I've worked for now different companies in different countries. I just came from living in Nigeria. Why? Because it's the most dynamic African country, and I wanted to go there, even though it for many people it's a difficult place. I wanted to try it. I wanted to live there. I met wonderful people. I met a wonderful culture, and I'm glad I did that. Yeah, I mean, the day you stop taking risks is the day you might as well just say, I'm gonna sit back and wait to die. And I'm not doing that. So, every time I've ever interviewed 80-year-old people, they say the same thing. I only regret the risks I didn't take. They will always tell you that. And so I've always listened to that. I've taken every job that I've been asked to take, and I've gone to all the geographies that they asked me to move to. And I looked at everything positively, like this is an opportunity to learn.
James's 5 qualities you need to succeed. First, courage. Second, coachability. Third, social intelligence. Fourth, leadership. And fifth, perseverance.
Some great advice that we can all learn from. So now it's time to meet Maulik Sailor. Hello, Maulik.
Hello, hi, Chrissy.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well.
Good, good. So you have your own business, Maulik.
Yes.
But you haven't always had your own business, of course. You did start off somewhere.
Yes.
But can you tell the viewers what you were doing before?
So before starting my business, I was working for big firms, getting well paid, having my life, going out, traveling, partying, everything.
So things were good.
Yes.
Then why on earth did you decide to start your own business? Because you were having time to do the stuff that, enjoy yourself and...
I always wanted to start my own business. That's one thing which I was very clear about. But I was getting too comfortable in my, well-paid jobs.
Which is what Jim was saying there, wasn't it?
Yes. And one day I just decided to leave everything and just focus on doing a business. So I left my job. I left my house as well.
Really?
Yes, I used to own a very big penthouse. So I left that and moved in a very tiny room. That's big. I literally couldn't measure.
That must have been really hard though, if you're used to such a massive place and then...
For first month it is. After that, nothing else matters.
Really?
Yeah. So I started working on my business, forming ideas, what should I do? I had some ideas which I was working on. Unfortunately, it didn't go anywhere, so that failed. So by the end of the year, I had no house, no money left in that, and no business.
Now you're saying this with a smile on your face,
Yeah.
But obviously at the time it was extremely stressful, wasn't it?
Yes.
How did you cope with that?
I think you come to a point where you don't have anything more to lose, so then you are not scared anymore. And then you're just focused on what you want to achieve.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. That's very true, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
You lost the things you were scared of losing anyway, so now the only way is up, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the previous startup I wanted to do, I learned from the failures, and to solve the problems I faced, I started my current company, which is which is to help solve all those problems which other people might face.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what would you say was the biggest lesson for you in all the stress that you went through and everything?
I think the biggest lesson is you need to be really focused on what you want to achieve. Anything that takes your focus away is not worth it. And your friends and family are very important. The real friends will understand. They'll not ask you to come out on a stupid party, knowing that you're working hard. They'll always stand by you, whether you're successful or not.
That's a good point, though, because if you don't have people around that understand what you're going through and what you're trying to achieve, they could even be a hindrance, really, couldn't they?
Totally. You'll find a lot of people who are just there to waste your time and energy. And there are people who are there to support you in your bad times, encourage you and comfort you, because you are going through a lot of difficult phase in your life. So these people really help you to...
Were you quite sort of open to talk then if you were going through difficulties? Because I know a lot of people see it as a sign of weakness if they talk about what they're going through or talk about being stressed. But in your case, you did...
I'm actually a very, very close person, so I don't really talk about it. But my closest friends, they knew about it, what I was going through. So I didn't really have to talk about it. They could understand. and they were there around me.
Great. So tell us how your current business is going.
It's going well. We are growing very fast. In total, I now employ more than 100 people.
Great, it's brilliant.
Yeah, so it's doing really good.
So it was worth leaving that comfortable, well-paid job to start your own thing?
Yes.
What's great about having your own business?
I'm my own boss. No one is there to tell me what to do. I decide what I want to do. I set the direction, and sky is the limit, right? I can achieve what I want.
Yeah. And what about future plans for you?
I want to go to Mars, right? So sky is not my limit. My limit is further down. Yeah. Okay,
so after the break, we're going to be speaking to Jonathan Pfahl, our business expert. Can you tell us the relationship that you have and what he's been helping you with?
So Jonathan, we've been working with him since the beginning of this year, and his mentorship, his co-working space, newly formed in London. We are part of that. Helping us with sales and marketing and the coaching, also spreading our business with his help, with his network.
How important do you think it is to get that kind of help for a new business especially?
I think new businesses needs a lot of help, mentoring, support from people like Jonathan, who may not be involved in day-to-day running of the business, but do help you to stay focused on what you want to achieve and are there to tell you whether you are right or wrong. So it's not like having a boss where you have to sort of answer to and stuff, and they tell you what to do. So you're your own boss, but you're just getting that. Yeah, you're getting an expert advice. These are the people who have learned from their failures. They have been successful after learning from those failures, so they can give you the right advice on what to do, what not to do.
All right, so we're going to be speaking to Jonathan Pfahl after this break, and he'll also be giving some tips on how to try and not be stress-free, because you're never going to be stress-free when you have your own business, but how to manage some of that stress. So do join us after this.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show. Always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back everyone, where we are speaking on this show about how to manage the stress of starting or having your own business. Now, something to consider when you have your own business and are expanding is to keep your employees happy, because happy employees make things much easier for you and less stressful. One way to do this is to have well thought out office space, and here's one that I particularly found interesting.
My name's Jamie Kinch. I work for Rackspace, and my role is to run an internal department called Business Services. When we were looking for somebody to partner with, we were looking for somebody that had the kind of ideas that would create an amazing environment for our new home for fanatical sports. On top of that, what was really important to us was then to find somebody that could deliver at the kind of timescales that we needed as well. Morgan Lovell had a fantastic design for us. They really pushed the ideas around how we'd like to see an office, so much so that we actually were in the fortunate position where we had to rein Morgan Lovell back a bit, which was exactly what we wanted. We were working against some really challenging timescales, and it was difficult to find companies that could really put their reputation on the line and deliver to the kind of timescales that we needed. Because we wanted a design-led kind of brief, we left it very open. We said that we wanted to create an environment that our staff would be proud of. We wanted to have something that was quite unique and quite impactful when people visited our site. So we had quite an open scope to start with. And then through the ideas that Morgan Lovell generated, we used them alongside our staff to kind of hone in on how we wanted them to work with our building. We're not the kind of stuffy organisation that has boardrooms, so when we had a boardroom idea, it was to have number 10 Downing Street. We're a London-based business, and we wanted something that was iconic, that reminded us of our location, and so the one part of the building that people really kind of stand back and in shock at when they see it is number 10 Downing Street. Our staff love the building. We get nothing but positive feedback from them. I think what makes us very proud is that when we see staff showing potential clients around or new staff, that people are talking about it and they're very proud of it, and they show them around as if it is their home, and that's exactly the kind of concept that we had right at the start. The most important thing for us was to create somewhere where our staff were proud of, and we see that every day.
That's really interesting. So now it's time to go to Jonathan Pfahl, our business expert. Hello, Jonathan.
Hello, Chrissy. How are you?
I'm very well. Lovely to have you back on the show.
Good to be back.
We always learn lots when you come on.
Yeah, well, I've been away. I've been back in Australia, my native home, where I grew up for the last few weeks, and Dubai as well. So it's good to be back.
So did you get any time to rest and to have some fun, or was it work, work, work?
It was more fun than work.
Good.
I was away for just under a month, and only 2 of those days I was briefcase, suit on, and working in Sydney, Australia. Yes.
Oh, that's really good.
Well, the topic is stress tonight, so that's how I de-stress. I've got to get away with the family and spend time with the family, proper time with the family. That is my biggest stress relief, without question.
Are you able to switch off completely, though?
Never. Never. I'm getting better. I'm genuinely getting better. We're now 8th year now at Rockstar, and it's funny when things are just going very, very well. That's when you stress less. But the funny thing is that the more time, if you're away, personally, it's not for everyone, but if I'm away for too long, then inevitably, whilst I've got a great team that run the show, if you're away for 4 weeks, something is going to happen in that 4-week period. And it always does. Every time I go back to Australia, it's a 22-hour flight, so you're not going to go for 5 days and come back, or a week. You're going to take that time out. But I personally prefer going on a number of short breaks, 5 days, 7 days, long weekends, and spread it out throughout the year, because time away, physically, geographically out of the country that I work in, and spending time with family and friends is what de-stresses me.
Yeah, okay, that's good. As long as everyone gets some of that, that's the main thing, right? Do you go on holiday?
Oh, well, I do travel a lot to India. That's where our other teams are based. Yeah. Well, I don't get any time to switch off at all.
But you will get there.
I hope so. I hope so.
You have to do it. You have to do it.
I need to. Last year, just before Christmas, there was a day when I just said, okay, you know what, I'm not working today, and I just flew off to Iceland.
Just like that?
Just like that.
That's spontaneous of you, that's very good.
Yeah, I did that.
How was Iceland?
Very cold.
Was it worth
it? The name doesn't give it away at all, does it?
So Jonathan, what do you think of Maulik's story?
Oh, I mean, it's a classic case of an entrepreneur who, like myself, started not as a business owner, not as an entrepreneur, started inside a big organisation, but always had that desire and dream to do their own thing. Yes. And you go from one world, maybe the word comfortable comes to mind, is probably the most suitable one, to something completely the opposite. The beautiful thing about starting your business for the first time when you've come from a corporate environment is being your own boss and not having to see to anyone. And that's the great thing, and still to this day, it is still one of the best things you enjoy about it. But it's also the most daunting thing you can ever think about as well when you start, because...
It's not for everyone, is it?
It's not, without question. And, I've never stood up and said anyone can do it, because it takes a certain type of person. It never happens overnight. It never happens often in the time frame that you set out, that you think it will. And Maulik is a great example of someone who, like myself, when you started first, it didn't go according to plan. There were failures. I had the same thing when I started. And there's an old saying that our old wonderful Prime Minister Winston Churchill said during World War II, which resonates with me whenever I'm going through tough times, is when you're going through hell, keep going. And I remember that, and it is a line that I say to myself whenever I'm really under and things aren't going well and I'm very, very stressed. I keep saying that to myself. When you're going through hell, don't stop. Use that as an analogy. Keep going.
Okay. Now, can you give us some of your own personal tips, apart from sort of having holidays and stuff like that? How else can you keep stress at bay? Because like I said, it is daunting, and especially if you've just left your job. And you had all that security like you did, and everything was fine. There was nothing wrong with where you were working or what you were doing. But leaving that sort of security, how would you manage the stress that comes with it?
Well, it depends on what your hobbies and interests are. But there are certain things that we all have in our life that absolutely take our mind off work or our business. Sometimes you're out having a dinner party, or you're out with friends and you're having so much fun laughing about silly stuff, or just stuff that friends talk about, your mind does switch off from work. For me, I love doing that, socializing. I take my mind off work when I'm socializing. I take my mind off work when I'm at the gym. I think it's important to be healthy and be active when you're in business or in life anyway. So I get to the gym usually 3 mornings in the week and then on Saturday mornings as well. So that's my time, but it's also when you're exercising and you're focusing on something else, it does take your mind off it too. Whether it's knitting, whether it's writing poetry, whether it's painting or drawing.
It's about yourself here, knitting.
No, I'm definitely knitting is certainly not one for me. Yeah. But we all have things that we love that we're very passionate about. It genuinely does take our mind off it. Half the time it doesn't cost us anything. So they would be, rather than going to Australia and Dubai for a month with a family of 4, it's a lot cheaper to do knitting. De-stresses it.
Now, can you tell us a bit more about the mentoring that you do, Jonathan? Because obviously we've heard how important it's been to Maulik and some of the other guests that we've had on. Why is it such an important thing for people to consider?
Well, if we stick to the topic of stress, right? There's a saying that we use a lot at Rockstar, which is, why learn from your own mistakes when you can learn from someone else's? And all the mentors that we've got in the group, you know, have started, built up and sold companies for an average price of 18 million quid across all sectors. So they've been through it. To achieve something like that, it hasn't just all been smooth sailing. It hasn't just been done in 5 years. These are journeys on average which are between 15 and 25 years, which means they haven't seen 1 recession. They've been through a lot more, 2, in some cases even 3. So it's never easy to achieve such success, but if you are working with someone who has been through it, they understand the trials and tribulations that you're going through as a growing business. And not only do they put their hand on your shoulder and say, yes, it's tough, but it's more about, this is how to avoid that. Because I went through that. The stress was intense. In a lot of the cases, they lost their marriages over it. You know, business can consume you. You know, success can consume you. And I think the most important thing about what we do is giving businesses of all sizes and sectors who come to us because they've got the same mutual desire, which is they want to grow and they want to grow faster, and they're absolutely committed to making it work. So leverage off the experience and the advice that's given to them. It really does help.
Definitely. Jonathan, thank you so much for coming and giving your advice. Thank you so much, Maulik, and all the best with your business.
Thanks a lot.
And businesses. And other things that are going to happen.
I know.
Absolutely.
Well done. Thank you so much. All right, so guys, do stay tuned because after the break, I'll be giving my own tips with Coach Chris Browne.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to today's program. So we're going to continue the theme about stress and managing stress, and I'm here with Coach Chris Browne, who's with us every single week giving great advice. So Chris, we're speaking about stress, especially for people that are starting a business, but these points can obviously apply to anyone in any situation.
Yeah, in one way or another, stress affects many people, whether it be work, whether it employs well or employee.
Definitely. Now, you know, with starting your own business, you do have so many things to worry about. So if you have left a comfortable job, for example, you're going to be worrying about if you have enough income to pay the bills. You have this new work-life balance that you have to manage. You have to make your own decisions. You have to manage staff. So there's loads and loads of things that you do have to do. So it's important to manage the stress that comes with it. So you need to toughen yourself up mentally, I would say.
Most definitely.
All right, so let's go to the first point. The first one is to identify negative bad thoughts. So you need to keep a careful eye on the way you're thinking. Now, negative thoughts will come, and you may be tempted to take things personally. So, for example, a staff member, Chris, criticizes you for something. You're managing them, and they say, "Oh, you're a rubbish boss" or whatever. If you take that personally, that could really damage you and cause stress.
That will affect you. And the thing about it is to take that negatively. What we're talking about is we've got a negative self-dialogue inside our head. So something might happen, an incident a long time ago. Somebody said, "Oh, you were terrible in that meeting before." You happen to mention that to that person, they still think about that time, they're connected. So we've got to be careful about the negative self-talk as well that brings that out.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, if someone does criticize you for something, whether it's an employee of yours or even a client, you need to kind of say, okay, I made a mistake, or I didn't do things as well as I should do, but let me learn from that comment, let me improve. So you use it as a stepping stone rather than something to stress out about.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
Okay, number 2 is to make sure you take a break. So this is something that Jonathan spoke about, and also, well, Maulik, he's not really good at taking breaks yet, but he'll get there. So when things are getting too much for, have a break and relax. And you might say, oh, you know, I haven't got time to take a break. You need to make time, or else you'll end up wasting time later, because if you end up in hospital,
very much
you can't work anyway, can you?
Yeah. And I'll tell you something. I had something here for you viewers. It's important to take a break in every situation at the end of the day. Now, you just said you end up in hospital. Now, when we're in a rush and we're under pressure, we release this chemistry called cortisol, which actually is a heart acceleration. Now, here's a good way to get around it. Imagine this, you're driving, you're rushing to get somewhere, there's the red light. The red light has stopped. Automatically, we just want to go, we want to go.
Yeah.
That is the time to take a mental break instead. That's the time to actually stop. All right, so you're not a driver, you're somebody who is waiting in a queue. That's the time to actually just stop, take a break then. Yeah?
Yeah.
Let go.
Let go. You just got to do it.
Let go.
And also, obviously, we will always talk about the health, but it is a very, very important factor, because people say, I don't have time to look after my health, I don't have time to exercise or eat healthily. If you don't, you will get a lot more stressed anyway. So it's really important to eat healthily, to get regular exercise, and, you know, do as much as you can to look after your health, because that will enable you to function properly, basically.
And also the amount you eat and what you actually eat as well is going to make a big difference.
No chicken curry and roti for you, Chris.
Oh, well, maybe.
Number 3, don't try to be Superman or Superwoman. So there's some things that just aren't in your control. For example, the weather, right? There's some things that just aren't in your control. So concentrate on the things that you can do and you can influence. So if maybe your business is, you know, depends on, maybe you're a client that does sort of events outside and the weather's bad or something, obviously you need to think of worst case scenarios and stuff, but you can't get overly stressed on something that you can't control.
No, and a good way to recognize that is get a piece of paper, draw a big circle, put another circle in the middle. Middle circle is primary, the outside is secondary. Work them out. The things that are really important, put in the middle circle. Things that are not so important on the outside. So you get a balance of what to prioritize and not get stressed about it.
Okay, cool. And number 4 is to invest in your self-belief. So think about your skills and experience that have got you basically to where you are today, instead of over-focusing on what might not be going right now. So in the same way you developed in those areas, you can also develop in your current challenges. So, you know, you will always have those things that you're great at, but, you know, use the experiences before to also get better in the things that you're doing now, that if you aren't so good at them.
Very much so. It's very important to invest in yourself and to work out what are your strengths and what are your areas, not weaknesses, areas that you need to develop, right? Instead, got to get it in, right? And if you start working on those, tick them off, you realize, invest in yourself, go and find out information, basically.
Okay, number 5. Now this is like a little trap that sometimes people fall into, which is focusing on the wrong thing. So number 5 is shift your focus. So invest in that passion for what you love to do, which is why, you know, you started your own business in the first place, because you have a passion for it. So focus on that when things are tough, rather than focusing on what's going wrong right now, or is not going the way you want it to be going. Because if you put all your focus on the problems, and you forget about your focus of why you started the business and, you know, why it's important to you, you can start to get really stressed about it. And it's actually that focus on why you started in the first place that will get you through the tough times.
And there's always going to be obstacles. It's a fact. Whatever you started, there's going to be an obstacle. Much what you just said, Chrissy, having an end vision to actually focus on why you started this, what you expect of it, what you want to achieve. That's what's going to take you through at the end of the day.
Definitely. And also number 6 is to consider a mentor, as we spoke with Jonathan earlier. So, you know, this is something that was quite new for me, actually. Before, you know, we're having Jonathan on, I didn't know about all this business mentoring, but it does make sense, because you have counselors to help you through certain things, and, you know, people that you sit down and talk to for personal problems. But why not have a mentor or someone, even if you don't employ a mentor, you don't, you know, have someone helping you in that way, but at least so you can talk to someone that has more experience, they've started their own business, or they're doing something similar to what you want to do. Why not speak to them? It's
very important because you've got to have a mentor, because just as John said, they've made the mistakes already. So because they've made the mistakes, you're not going to fall into the same pit holes as well. Now, in most businesses, you've got to have a mentor, one way or another. Coaches, they have a mentor as well. So they coach other people. They've got to debrief, talk to somebody else who is more proficient in that. Or in businesses, if it's set up right structure, you've got the supervision, where they've got to sit down and go and talk to them and outlet, have an outlet over it. It's really important anyway.
Okay. Now, Chris, I know you have a lot of fans, and they like to follow you and see what you're doing and everything. But how do you manage your stress? Because maybe some people look at you and say, he's got it together, everything's fine, he's doing so well. But you obviously go through stress yourself. I go through it as well.
Yeah. I go through it as well. And I realise that the weeks that I actually get it is when I haven't planned enough.
Okay.
Right. If there's a day I haven't got it up on the board, I've got a whiteboard at home in the office and put it, all right, going to do this, got to do that, got to do that. And it might overlap. Then I realise, well, hang on, something's not right. It's not in sync. What do? Take time out. Put it right. Either much similar to what John was saying, either ride the bike. I've got that thing about tropical fish, right? It's kind of crazy. I sit here, watch the tropical fish, and it all goes. It all just goes. It's all calm.
Yeah, I was glad you
said that. If I was going to say fishing or something.
Fishing or eat the tropical fish.
Oh, tropical fish? No. Right, but yeah.
I understand what you mean, though.
Yeah,
because when you see, I don't know. It's just not, that's why I like having a cat, because my cat's so cute and fluffy and sweet, and she just makes me laugh. So that, for me, de-stresses me.
Takes it away. Yeah. It's much what you were saying before about focus. If you can take your focus off for a little while, you've got time to reorganise and put things in order.
Yeah, that's right.
At the same time. So it's really important as well. Something else I wanted to mention as well is this week on the blog, I've actually got here 7 stress busters. Right. So go to coachchrisbrowne.com. 7 stress busters. It's amazing what you find that you can do to actually get rid of the stress at the end of the day.
All right, Chris, thank you so much for your participation in today's programme again, and we'll see you again next week.
Yep. Okay.
Alrighty, guys, so that's it for today's programme. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want more information about our guests or anything that you've seen on the show, you can visit the website chrissybshow.tv. And also, if you'd like to find out more about how I overcame depression and the things that I went through as well, you can visit my website, which is mylifeafterdepression.com. See you again next time. Bye-bye for now. Do you know my mind went completely blank?
Just like it?
Just completely, just nothing. Nothing at all.
Really? You're probably thinking
absolutely
about
nothing. Wow, that was weird.
I wouldn't laugh, but that's what I looked at all.
That was really weird.
Yeah.
What's my name? Chrissy. Okay, come on. Before we get to the next point, let's take a look at this video.